Hey everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Moments with Mo. So, I just want to take out this time to express my gratitude to the people who supported me during this journey, this very long and overdue journey. Anybody who gave me a suggestion about things that I should talk about on the podcast, anybody who just had a great conversation with me, anybody who expressed interest about possibly being a guest on the podcast. I just appreciate all of you guys and all the support that I've been getting for this new journey. And I want to say I don't take it lightly. I understand there's a responsibility that comes with having a platform and sharing information, and overall just aligning with my purpose, which is to be a voice for the people. And we're going to be sharing real experiences in real time. So again, I appreciate you guys so much, and I am just so excited for this brand new opportunity. But in today's episode, we're actually going to be starting off with a relationship series. So I hope you guys are ready for that. And I'm actually looking on my phone because I do have 3 topics that we will be discussing. So 3 topics on the table for today, which are past experiences and how it influences your relationships, how your most important relationships reflect your ability to show up for others, and validity versus justified actions within your relationships. And so I first want to express more thanks to people who were interacting with me on my Instagram story. That is where I was getting most of the things that I will be talking about within today's session from. So thank you guys so much. But in terms of the first question, which is past experiences, I actually had a more specific question dealing with your children, your future children. And so the reason why I asked the question that way was because I was trying to think about different relationships when it comes down to you being able to experience a certain thing in your past versus how you will react to someone else experiencing that same thing. Most times we are okay with putting ourselves through so much, but then when it comes down to the other person, it's like, oh, you're going through that? I don't like that. Like, stop. I don't want you going through that. And it's just like, why should you be willing to put yourself through things? But when it comes down to other people being a part of that, it's not good. You know what I'm saying? So I just felt like, what would be the most impactful relationship where that would be, I want to say, the most problematic, to be honest. And the biggest one that popped into my head was the relationship between a parent and a child. And so that made me think of the question, would you be okay if your child turned out just like you with regards to past experiences? And so we had a lot of great answers. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So I will say, for a lot of the guys that I spoke to, all of them said yes. All of them said yes. You know what I'm saying? Like, they all said yes. But the women, the responses were a little bit more skewed. So I guess we could just mix and match. So the first person said yeah, and I'm actually going to go into the chat that he was in. So he said, I said, may I ask why? I made sure to ask everyone if they were comfortable with sharing. He said, yeah, I just know that the qualities I have help me succeed in life, as well as knowing right from wrong. And I said, I agree. Some people really have their heads on straight, so it limits unnecessary setbacks. Thanks for sharing. And then a lot of other people also kind of said the same thing. Like, one guy said he would want his child to be exactly like him. Another person said that I believe if you're a good person with good character and strong morals, then you should be okay with your child turning out like you. But he said he can only speak for himself, but before you have kids, you should have yourself figured out. And I said I agree as well. And I just think it's about learning from your wins and gracefully accepting your losses. Another person, he said that he feels as though he's come a long way and he has even more room to grow as a person, and if his child is at the same place as he is at this age, that he would be okay with that. He would like that, but of course he would want more for them. And I said I couldn't agree more. Besides some minor experiences, I think a lot of people would feel the same way about how their life has played out so far. And then one of my other friends, big shout out to him, I feel like he should know who he is, but he said that he wouldn't want to pass on any past hurts that they may be carrying, and he wants his future children to be their own person. And I really appreciated that insight because I was just like, it's very much like him to say, and no one else really gave that perspective. And then another person, shout out to him. He was saying that, I'm trying to scroll up. He said he thinks that he's been pretty successful in the things that he's done in his life up until this point, and he believes that he is respected by his friends and family, so that he would want his children to be the same way. And he said that he doesn't have everything figured out, obviously, because there are a lot of people that are not on my level when it comes to certain things, but he is aware that he would like for them to be better in some areas as well. And I actually wanted to continue the conversation with him because I feel like that was a really like well thought out response, which is what I communicated to him. And I actually asked him another question, which I feel like could be a whole completely separate podcast. But I said, based on your response, I would assume that if your future daughter came home with a guy similar to you, that you would be cool with it. But what if she came home with someone similar to your homeboys? And I feel like that's a deep question because, I mean, you can't really be responsible for the people that you surround yourself with. But then again, you are the company that you keep. And you would want to associate with people who are like you to a certain extent. Like, they don't have to be the same, have the same, like, viewpoints and thought processes. But they still should be, like, decent people, if that makes sense. And he was like, dang, that's a really good question. I mean, personally, I have a lot of friends. So, I mean, all of them are not the same when it comes down to their life or how they treat females. But I would say that if I had a daughter and I thought they were similar to my homeboys, there would be some that I would approve of, and then there would be some that I would not go for at all. And I said, that's valid. Which we're going to get into towards the end of the podcast. But I said how people view the world and how they are raised definitely plays a role. And he said, yeah, it definitely does because some of my homeboys' way of thinking makes absolutely no sense. So, yeah. Like, I don't know. I feel like with all of the guys' answers, they gave pretty decent answers, to be honest. Like, I could see where all of them were coming from. I think that to some extent you should want your children to be like you. And I feel like the guys who answered and responded to the question, they haven't really, like, I'm trying to find a good way to say this. They haven't really had any big issues. Like, of course, there are minor experiences that can be impactful, but, like, they didn't really get caught up in any trouble. Like, they made sure to stay focused to some extent. And so I feel like that does change the perspective of how they answer and view the question. So I appreciate y'all. Shout out to all of y'all who responded. But now we're going to move on to the women who responded, and I appreciate y'all as well. So one person, she said no. She said that she would like for them to be better. You always want things to steadily progress. And I said, it's great to hear your point of view, especially comparing women's responses to men's responses. You're the only one that said that, and I definitely agree. Because, like, to some extent, that's kind of like Blackish. If you've seen the show, there are two characters, the parents, Andre and Rainbow, and they have children, of course. And, of course, their upbringing wasn't bad, specifically with Dre, but he wanted more for his children. And so he provided them with some of the experiences that he didn't necessarily have growing up. And as a result, he just feels like that lifestyle is so much better for them. And I don't see that as being wrong. I mean, I feel like they should be able to progress, even if the childhood experience wasn't that bad to begin with. But there's nothing wrong with wanting more for your children. So I completely understand where she's coming from with that. Let's move on to the next person. Okay, so she came with some heat, and for privacy purposes, I'm not going to play her audio recording, but I will say my response to what she said. So I said, girl, let's talk about it. I've definitely experienced toxic relationships with friends, significant others, family, etc. And we take so much because of the love that we have for them, but others don't care for them to the same extent that you do, so they can speak outside of an infatuated state. It's good to know that at some point If your kid ever gets in the thick of it, you can always give them advice, especially when it comes to relationships. And she said, very true, very true. Whenever I tell my friends advice, I always tell them I'm not in the situation and feelings can change a lot. And let's actually speak on this one just a little bit. So I guess I want to have like a moment with Mo in every podcast, and I feel like that would be a good area to highlight. When you like somebody or when you are interested or attracted to someone, you see them from the version that you kind of created. Sometimes that's not necessarily aligning with who they are and what their actions are saying. And so your perspective is kind of skewed because you're in this like blissful, infatuated state, but their actions aren't really all that. You know what I'm saying? So when other people who care about you and love you see that, they're like, this person ain't even really all that, to be honest. And you don't see that, but I see that from the outside looking in. And I want more for you than you want for yourself at this point. So I'm gonna put you on game and just be like, I don't think this is something that you should align yourself with. I don't see this relationship working out. And sometimes we really do need those people in our life because, like, at times where we don't see it for ourselves or we just don't have enough wisdom to acknowledge certain things, they can step in and pull us out of that. So with her, I feel like it's very important for her to have that knowledge because then she can take on some of the, not take on the experience, but she can definitely guide them in the right direction so they don't deal with the same things that she's dealt with in certain experiences when they don't have to. So I feel like sometimes other people learn lessons before you so you don't have to go through it. So listen to their advice. But yeah, I appreciate her. And let's go ahead and move on to the next person. So she said, absolutely, that's what I pray for. And I said, we love that. It takes a lot of self-awareness to confidently admit that. And she was like, yeah, like me, but the 2.0 versions, LOL. I said, I know that's right. We go through struggles and learn from certain lessons, good and bad, so they don't have to. And she said, yup, LOL. I want to start teaching them about investment, savings, building credit early on. I said, that'll be very useful, especially the way the economy is headed. So yeah, I really agree with what she's saying. So like, cause sometimes we don't have the knowledge growing up, and our parents don't necessarily like give us access to certain information. So if we have access to certain information to be able to set our children up in the right areas, in the right ways, I feel like why not want better for them? Cause sometimes some parents want you to get it in out of the mud just like they did, and I don't think that's cool sometimes. You know, like so your kids don't gotta struggle just like you did. So, you know, it's okay to pass on some knowledge. It's okay. But we're going to go ahead and go to the next person. So she said, hold on, let me scroll. She said no, just straight up no. And shout out to her. I really, really care about her. I love her. I said, Fran, why? She was like, cause I want them to be better than me and not settle or tolerate disrespect while being respectful, but setting boundaries. Also, to not be lazy like me because I feel like I would be further in life if I wasn't lazy. I said, heck yeah, it's really cool to hear different perspectives on this question. She said, yeah, there's a lot about myself that I know is a part of my personality, but if somebody shared the same traits, I don't think I would like them. I said, yeah, I get that for sure. Thanks for being vulnerable. And so, speaking a little bit more, because I didn't want to share too much with her, because if I have a conversation with her, we're going to talk for like 3 hours, and I don't want to say everything that I want to say with her when I could be saying to the pod. So, tune in, sis. But yeah, like I was just saying, I really, really resonate with what she's saying, and like knowing some of the experiences that she's been through and comparing those with the situations that I've been through, it's just like not a lot of people are emotionally intelligent when it comes down to dealing with relationships and knowing when to cut things off and knowing you don't have to tolerate certain things. And so you can still remain firm in your boundaries. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be nasty. But you can definitely, walk in your purpose, stand up and be like, nah, I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to accept that. You can go do that with somebody else, but I'm not going for it. And it's okay to do that. And then touching on the part where she was speaking about being lazy, I feel like laziness sometimes comes from within, but it is also like a product of your surroundings as well. when your surroundings are not necessarily stimulating, then it's easy to fall into a cycle of being lazy or complacent or procrastinating. And then on top of that, just like, even if you are getting supported by the environment, if it's not enough support or the support that you specifically need as a person, sometimes it's not necessarily enough for you to get out of that lazy slump and just actually, get to moving. But really, the part where she was talking about if she saw certain traits that she has within herself and others, she wouldn't like them. That's deep. That's deep. Because some traits that I have, I can see them within other people that I don't like. And so at least you can acknowledge that and be able to kind of like move past it or be self-aware to work on it and get better. You know what I'm saying? You're never going to be like fully healed, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, you can still choose to do better for yourself, which kind of leads into the next response. And she said, mostly, I hope they don't get my anxiety. And she really, yeah, she did that. Like, she came with it. So we spoke about past experiences, specifically with her, which is actually really tackling the question head on. This was someone who I have grown up with. I've known of her since the 3rd grade. And we were friends between like the 4th grade until high school, and we still talk here and there like now. So I've kind of seen her journey as she's progressed. And she was kind of expressing that, she could have anxiety over time, just like putting so much pressure on herself and trying to be the best person she can be, especially according to, her parents' standards. And I was telling her, like, I could see the pressure that was on you from the outside looking in. I saw like the pressure, not only that she was putting on herself, but that other people were putting on her. And what I told her is, it's easier for you to internalize pressure that you're putting on yourself, because the only person who's really affected by that is you. So the only person you're really disappointing is you. But when other people place so much high expectations and pressure on you, when you don't meet their needs, it's like you're disappointing all of these different people. So now you have an audience. So now that you have something to prove, you feel like you need to do the best and you need to just excel in everything. And it kind of creates an unrealistic, situation, because it's just like, I can't be perfect at everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just can't be perfect in everything. And so let's keep on going and see what she continued to say. And she said, I get so much of my personality, from her folks, and sometimes it makes me sad because I see the flaws in their mannerisms come out when I'm interacting in personal relationships. It sucks because your parents are literally your foundation and really all you know. So to get that reality check that there's flaws in how they raised you and shape you low-key causes an existential crisis. The good thing is, at this point, I'm becoming my own person, so I can acknowledge the flaws, but also it's really scary, if that makes sense. And of course, I said it takes a lot of acknowledgement to say that. And I said you're one step closer to breaking the cycle. And I completely agree. Parents are your introduction into literally everything. Like, they're your first teachers. So it's really all you know until you're exposed to something different. They try their best, but they are bound to make flaws that are deeply impactful. Some people are consciously aware of the effects, while others don't give much attention to it. I just hope that you give yourself grace and practice healing in moderation as you progress in life. Some bits of your parents are embedded in you for life just because it's blood, but you can also choose to let go of some of the traits you don't care for. If no one told you this, I'm proud that you are taking the steps to continue developing your identity and walking in your purpose during your healing journey. And so, yes, she was just saying, like, you got to make sure that you're giving yourself grace, like I said. And I want to touch on that point and the point about healing in moderation. So sometimes you can get stuck in identifying so many flaws and trying to, like, make things better from your past, like your childhood experiences and all that, that you never really acknowledge the wins. You know what I'm saying? You never give yourself that praise that you deserve when you have a milestone moment, And so it creates this drive that you just have to continue to do well and continue to progress and continue to heal. But there's always going to be more problems that pops up. So if you don't allow yourself to, really take some pride in those milestone moments, you're never going to truly feel satisfied. It's never going to be good enough for you. And so there's always going to be different ways in which you heal, because there are always different things that pops up. And then because healing is linear, you're never going to be the perfect version of yourself. It's just not attainable. So I feel like it's very important to practice grace, making sure that you are taking the steps that you need to heal at a time frame that works for you, and being realistic with yourself and being kind to yourself, and making sure that, I see that there is an issue, I see that I need to work on it, and I'm giving myself the time to work on it and work on it thoroughly and effectively. So you're acknowledging what's happening, but you're doing it in a right time frame, because expediting the process, I just feel like it's just gonna create the next issue, or it's just gonna bring the next thing to a head. So there's always something right behind it, when you can just be like, you know what, I got through that and I'm proud of myself. So I definitely appreciate her. I hope at some point she could join the podcast as well, because I really appreciate her insight. But again, I wanted to thank everybody who, contributed to that conversation. And I guess I could speak a little bit about my past experiences as well. So as a child, I've always been like an independent person. I really have. Like, I never really relied on my parents that much. Once I got to a certain age, I was pretty much doing stuff by myself. And I'm pretty sure they're going to have some discrepancies, but so be it. But, we all went to school. They went to work. And, we were at school all day. Eventually we come home, eat dinner, and it's just like the cycle continues. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like for a while, I just didn't even know I was kind of living with my family, to be honest. It kind of just felt like I was living with people, like with roommates and stuff. Not saying that it wasn't a pleasant experience or it was a bad experience, or like it was a bad experience. I'm not saying any of that. It was just kind of neutral. Like, I didn't realize that, it's more to it, On top of the fact that my relationships with friends, which I'm going to do a whole podcast about friendships, I am such an introvert. Like, I can speak, like, I'm not shy, but I'm not the type of person to initiate conversations at all. To this day. Like, I'm not the type of person to initiate conversations. But if you approach me, if you come to me with some heat, if you come to me trying to have a conversation, I'm going to meet you halfway and I'm going to give you the same energy. So yeah, like, I feel like that those things do shape the way in which I show up now, which was the second question. It almost kind of makes it seem like it's an excuse, like, oh, I'm an introvert, it's the way I am. But after a while, it's like, you can grow though. Like, you can choose to do better. Maybe sometimes you can initiate a conversation. Maybe sometimes you can put yourself out there and step out of your comfort zone. And it's okay, it's healthy. You know what I'm saying? So yes, we're going to go ahead and get into the next question. I'm just going to read it off again for you guys. So the question is, how does your most impactful relationships reflect your ability to show up for others? All right, let me sit up for this one. Let me sit up. So in my opinion, my most impactful relationships, it shows me that I probably care for people more than I care for myself at times, which is probably really bad. Like, it's probably bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't necessarily think that's the best thing to do, but it just shows that I love hard. You know what I'm saying? And so not everybody has access to, me loving the hardest or anything like that, but I do try to show up for people in a great way. And I'm gonna kind of tease the episode for my friendships episode. I will say that I believe in transactional relationships. And I know that sounds bad, but I really don't think that I do. Like, I really don't. So in my opinion, I feel like I give out of the kindness of my heart because I like to give to people. I like to be there for people. And I would just hope that as a friend, they would be willing to pour into me as well. So we're constantly pouring into each other. So we're all carrying the same weight and we're all constantly being fed. But we don't necessarily have to be fed in the same way. Like, if I choose to pour into you by paying for your meal, just treating you for the day, and you pour into me by like I told you that I was going through it, and I just vented more than I usually do. And because of that, you're just like, hey, I see that you're going through it. I just decided to share with you this prayer, or share with you this podcast, or share with you this post, or give you a care package or something. And it doesn't have to be anything that costs anything, but just showing that you're thinking about somebody. I feel like that is both of us keeping up with the same energy, and you don't necessarily have to spend money to do that, or just to show up for people. That's really what I expect. If I show up for my friend, I would hope that my friend would show up for me, because that's truly what being in a friendship is about. I feel like if your friend is not showing up for you, is it really a friendship? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it really a friendship? You know what? Answer that question in the comments. If a person that you're in a relationship with is not showing up for you, is it truly a relationship? Yes or no? And if you want to go into detail, go ahead and put that in the comments below. But yeah, like, so just going back to the relationships and how that, how that shows how I show up for people. I guess I can just take that with seeing how people view me in relationships. I feel like they view me as like I said, a hard lover. Someone who's going to come to you with some heat, someone who's going to tell you the truth and hold you accountable when you need to, someone who's going to show you grace and be a listening ear for you, someone who is going to go beyond just like listening and just like the fun times and interactions. Like, we going to do all of it, you know what I'm saying? But I want to provide more than just being that person who you can have a good time with. I want to be able to have deep conversations with you, just to be able to see where you're at. I want to be able to, just have light times and heavy times, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people go through hard times alone, and that's just not right. So yeah, I just really think that with me showing up for friends, it shows that I'm just truly tuned in and focusing on the things that a lot of people don't pay attention to. Like, a lot of people are overlooked within relationships, to be honest. And the things that you should notice, you just get defensive about. But it's like, sometimes I be getting defensive, but then I'm just like, okay, let me try to communicate. That's one thing I try to do in relationships as well. It's like, I really try to show that I have good communication skills. But yeah, I just hope that I'm showing up as a good person. That's one thing that I'm always trying to push for, and I'm a big proponent for, is being a good person and giving out good energy. Because when you give out good energy, you receive good things, you receive good consequences if you do good things. And so yeah, I just try to pour into my friends, speak positivity. Of course, give them the time to rant, because I be ranting too. And I, don't try to change my friends. I know who they are, and some of their irks, some of their icks, is not necessarily things that I care for, but because I know that that's them, I'm going to allow them to be themselves within the relationship. And let's go ahead and move on to the next and final question, which is, what is the difference between validity versus being justified in your acts within your relationships? Okay. So, I kind of get triggered when the word valid gets taken out of context. And I don't mean like when you're saying like, oh, that's valid, or, like, I see where you're coming from, nothing like that. I mean like when I'm expressing myself and I'm just like, okay, I feel this way, and somebody's like, oh, that's valid. But it's like, is it though? So let's go ahead and go into the difference. So when something is valid, in my opinion, there's more than one response to the issue at hand. It doesn't even have to be an issue, but just there's more than one response to the scenario. And so let me try to give an example. If someone were to slap you in the face, it would be valid for you to slap them back, because there's nothing wrong with expressing hurt based off of them hurting you. That's not necessarily the most appropriate response, but it is one in several responses that you can give to someone that slaps you. But it is not unreasonable to assume that they want to slap you back. So in that case, their actions are valid, versus someone who's being justified within their actions. And that's, in my opinion, there's no other choice how to act but the way in which you chose to act. There's nothing else that you could have possibly done. You didn't have a choice. This is literally the only way you can react to the situation. And so the way that I explained it was, let's say that you're being robbed. They're robbing your house. The house is surrounded by their people. They locked all the doors. They took your phone. They took your keys. You don't have any way of getting out. You can't contact anybody. You can't leave. So those would have been your outs. being able to drive away and vacate the premises, can't do that. Can't call anybody, can't text anybody, you don't have anything on you. The only thing that you can do is try to defend yourself or die. And if you care about your life, you would try to defend yourself. So yeah, you would choose to defend yourself by either hurting them. You know, you can either stab to kill, you can punch to kill, you can punch just to punch, you can just try to get them like off their feet. But there's nothing else that you could really do except defend yourself or die, which a lot of people would not choose to do. So in that case, I feel like the actions are justified. So translating that into relationships, I feel like a lot of people are so stuck on trying to understand the other person, but sometimes, or feel understood rather, that you kind of overlook the places in which at some point we got to stop trying to be understood and do what's going to be healthy for the relationship. So like, for example, let's say that my partner, let's say that they were feeling this type of way. They felt like I was being distant when really I just have a lot going on. So instead of just communicating with me, they were just like, okay, you were distant, so I'm gonna ignore you. Okay, well that's valid. Since you ignored me, I'm going to go take some time for myself. All right, that's valid. So as you took time for yourself, I decided that I was gonna go hang out with the boys. Okay, you decided to hang out with the boys. It's like it's a battle of the valids, and anything can be valid, but not everything can be justified. When it's justified, you're taking actions to produce something that is solution based. It's based off of something that there's no other way to approach this except for a way of health. Now, there are a myriad of things that you can do when it comes down to healthy responses, but not a lot of people have access to that information, so it limits the way in which they show up as a healthy person within a relationship. So, personally, I would just try to have a conversation. Hey, it seems like you're kind of off today. Are you good? Is there something I need to talk to you about? Instead of automatically getting defensive and just wanting to do something to guard yourself. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to protect yourself, that you're not even picking up on the signs with your partner. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that it's very important to make sure that you're paying attention to certain signs and making sure that you are having actions within your relationship that prove to be justified, proves to be something that, you know, there's no other way that you can approach this. If you are trying to have a healthy relationship, you have to approach it from a healthy mindset, a healthy perspective. But if not, you're going to continue to have certain issues that could ultimately turn into irreconcilable issues. So that is my view on the difference between being invalid versus being justified. And so, yeah, I feel like that is going to be a great way to end the discussion on relationships in this first episode of Moments with Mo. And so I would like to thank you guys again for supporting me. Please, 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 please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I really, really, really do appreciate you guys so, so much. I don't know. Even after last year, everybody knows that I had a lot going on between like trying to graduate and all of that I really didn't have a lot of time to dedicate to being consistent when it comes down to a podcast. But I was having conversations, and sometimes I would be recording myself on my phone. You know, I was always trying to find a way to be consistent without having to meet the expectations of other people. I was only doing it for myself. Especially when you're going through something. I feel like that is a good technique, just to record yourself on your phone, talk to yourself, be able to reference that in the future, all that stuff. So like I said, I really, really appreciate this platform, and I hope to do the same with you guys, with just, you know, making sure that I'm given a platform and a safe space for people to be able to communicate their concerns and for me to be able to pass on some knowledge. So hopefully I've touched you guys in some way, shape, or form. But thank you again, you guys, for listening. And I hope to see you guys in the next episode of Moments with Mo. Bye, y'all.